Yeah.
Okay.
Which is normally it's like the autofocus
As long as people
from
can
the,
still see it.
I think it's mostly about hearing us anyway on this video.
Yeah.
Hey guys, welcome to another one of our awesome videos where we help you plan a trip to New Zealand. And the reason why we help you plan a trip to New Zealand is...
Well, because we are the team behind NZPocketGuide.com, which is New Zealand's largest travel guide. So this is Robin and I'm Laura. And NZ Pocket Guide is New Zealand's largest travel guide where it's absolutely free to use. You can research anything on, even if you're just doing a couple of weeks campervan road trip around New Zealand, up until a full year doing a working holiday. We have loads of information, loads of practical articles as well, just to basically answer all those like nitty-gritty questions you might have about traveling in New Zealand. But speaking of questions about traveling in New Zealand, we also do this live Q&A session every single Sunday at 8 a.m. New Zealand time, which, where's our trusty little board?
Oh, where is it?
There we go. So just so you know the times around the world. So like I say, it's 8 a.m. New Zealand time on a Sunday that we do this live Q&A session. On Saturday evening, we do in the UK and France, that's around 8 or 9 p.m. In the US, that's on a Saturday afternoon around 2 p.m. EST or 11 a.m. PST. In India, it's bright and early on a Sunday morning at 12:30 a.m.
Oof.
And in Australia, that is at 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning. And yeah, so what we do throughout the week is when you guys have questions and you put them in the comments of any of our YouTube videos, we pull them all together so that we can answer those questions during this live Q&A session as well. But obviously the best place to ask your questions is right now on the live Q&A, or the live chat, whatever that thing's called. And yeah, ask your questions there and we will do our very best to try and help you plan your trip to New Zealand.
All right, and we have been receiving a lot of comment lately from people saying that we speak a little too fast. So if you're watching us live, tell us if it's too fast and we're just going to slow down. And otherwise, I'm going to try to speak way slower. And one thing that I noticed that she said really fast was the name of the website. So it's www.nzpocketguide.com. And yeah, that's your little Bible of traveling in New Zealand with all the information. All right, so while you guys are getting warmed up on the live chat, asking us any questions that you may have about traveling in New Zealand, we're going to go over some questions that you left in the comments of any of the videos. If you happen to be in a place in the world where you realize that, well, our live sessions are just not at a convenient time for you, it's absolutely fine. You can put any of your questions in any of the comments of any of our videos, and boom, we'll pick it up during our live chat, and then you can either watch the replay, or I like to cut them in small snippets and actually just publish them later on, so like that you just have the answer to your question if you don't feel like watching us blabber for about an hour. All right, so let's get started without further ado. With a question from Christine. So Christine Eason on YouTube says, what to pack for a trip to New Zealand in winter, which is June, July, and August? Can you please make a video about this? I really like them. You're very welcome, Christine. We do really like making those videos for you as well. And yeah, so winter in New Zealand can get quite cold, but let's get started. So let's recap. When is winter? What is there to do in New Zealand in winter? Give us a bit of information.
Yeah, so as you know, with New Zealand being in the southern hemisphere, that means its winter is a bit different from the northern hemisphere. So winter is officially the months of June, July, and August. So yeah, like winter elsewhere in the world, that means that it's generally the coldest time of the year to travel to New Zealand. So you are definitely going to want to pack appropriately for that.
That's for sure. So because the weather in New Zealand is ever changing, you will notice that in this packing list that we're going to give you, there is a little bit of everything. The New Zealand weather is very famous for being a 4 seasons in one day. And seriously, even in winter, you can have an absolute stellar, beautiful bluebird day. And within about 30 minutes, it can just change to be a hailstorm. No joke, that actually happened to us.
Yeah.
All right. So for this packing list, we're going to go through different steps. And the first thing that we're going to start with is the carry-on packing list. So what to put in your carry-on for coming to New Zealand. You will find that there's also a few things that you need just paperwork-wise.
Yeah, so it is good to actually have like 2 separate packing lists, like one for your carry-on and one for your checked-in luggage, because there's going to be a few stuff that you want to have access to on your flight to New Zealand. But there's also some things that you don't want to pack for obvious security reasons at the airport as well, and what you can actually take onto the plane. But just for a packing list for your carry-on, it's a good idea to obviously have your passport and your flight ticket. I know it doesn't really need to be said, but just in case, it's good to jot it down.
I actually I've had a friend that showed up at the airport without his passport.
Really?
Forgot it. Yeah, had to rush.
I didn't even know that happened to people, but yeah. Also, if appropriate, you do need a visa. For instance, if you are coming to New Zealand to work or you're on a working holiday, you'll need to have the visa and supporting documents to go with that. So, for instance, if you are, coming on a working holiday visa and your visa requires you, for instance, to have sufficient funds for your stay, you just need to have like a printout of a bank account of showing that you have such funds. We do have a full video explaining that whole thing on our YouTube channel. So yeah, you can search that up. Or are you putting links in the comments now, in the description below now?
I'll put some links below,
as requested by some of our viewers. Yeah, so also it's a good idea to have another form of ID. For instance, if you need a driving license, just to have all that sort of important documentation all together with you in your carry-on. If you're thinking of renting a car in New Zealand, you're going to need your overseas driving license. And if your driving license isn't in English, then you'll also need to have an international driving permit. So make sure that you have that also packed if you need it. We also recommend packing cash, enough for your first week in New Zealand at least. The reason for this is that, sometimes things can go wrong if you only bring your credit card, for instance, or your debit card or something, and you can't actually withdraw cash in New Zealand. I know that some overseas banks put security locks if they have any suspicious activity on them. And it does happen to people that when they realize when they get to New Zealand and they go to withdraw that first set of cash or whatever, there's a security lock on their card. Yeah, that can happen. So just as a safety backup, it is a good idea to have enough cash for your first week in New Zealand. On top of that, it's good to also have your credit and debit card available and handy on you, safe with you. These sort of important documents are generally better to have in your carry-on, so you have them with you just in case your checked-in baggage gets lost. That definitely can happen. It's happened to my family when they've come to see me in New Zealand. Usually your luggage will only get lost for a few days and will come on a flight a few days later, but it's just always good to be prepared for that sort of thing. Also remember about your travel size toiletries. New Zealand is quite far away from everywhere else in the world, so chances are you're going to be taking a really long flight. You might want to be having some, I don't know, maybe a little bit of toothpaste or something to freshen up while you're traveling to New Zealand. So having some toiletries in your bag is generally like something that you might need. But remember that there are the restrictions for how much liquids and pastes you can bring in your carry-on luggage. So we do have information about that on nzpocketguide.com. Particularly in an article, what to pack in your carry-on for New Zealand. Robin will put a link in the description. All right, and then some entertainment. Like I say, it's a long flight to New Zealand, so something to keep you busy while you're in your flight or while you're waiting for your next flight. Just make sure that you have something to entertain yourself with. I recommend a travel pillow of some sort. Again, it's a long flight, and the little pillows that they give you on those long haul flights tend to not really do much.
They're terrible. I don't even know why they.
Yeah, I never know what you're meant to do with it. Like stick it against the wall and maybe rest your head on it.
So tiny, so thin, so useless.
I think it's more like, we've thought about it, but we didn't really think of a practical solution. So yeah, it's best to have your own travel pillow. Robin likes the blow-up ones because you can obviously have them really small in your bag and just blow them up when you need to.
Yeah, basically they don't take up space your whole trip. Well, with the blow-up ones. Well, if you get the one with like little beads or foam inside or anything, it's just going to stay that size for the whole time, and it's just a nightmare to carry around. So I like the blow-up.
I do tend to agree with that, but you can get some pretty cool memory foam ones now that fold up really small as well.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That'd be quite luxurious to have a memory foam travel pillow.
I mean, both of them, as long as they become really small. My point is just get something that is kind of easy to carry afterwards. It can be blow up, it can be memory foam. I actually have seen some memory foam one that actually shrink smaller than some of the blow up ones.
Really?
It's quite insane how small they become.
Yeah. And then finally, in your carry-on, make sure you have a spare set of clothes. Again, one reason for this is just in case your luggage gets lost, your check-in luggage gets lost. But otherwise, it's good to just have an extra layer for when they have, like, you know, the air conditioning in the airports or the or in your flight as well. Just a spare set of clothes, like a spare jacket or cardigan or something in case you get a little bit chilly is always good as well. And I think that's enough for the carry-on.
Yeah, here you go. Okay, now let's start the checklist of what you need in your actual bag. So the first thing that you're going to definitely need is travel clothes. So things that you're going to be wearing when you're going to be traveling. So we're talking about sweatpants, something comfortable, a nice jumper, just basically clothes that you're going to be really comfortable in. Forget the tight pair of jeans and the heavy hiking boots. That is not going to be fun to travel in.
Yeah.
But then you also need clothes for outdoors activities, because despite the fact that you're traveling to New Zealand in winter, you are still going to want to make the most of the great outdoor. In fact, winter is one of the best times to experience the outdoors in New Zealand. You have snow-capped mountain views, which are absolutely stunning. Most of the hikes are completely empty because the tourists are usually coming to New Zealand in summer. And on top of that, the weather actually is so unpredictable that you are very likely to have some amazing days to enjoy. But that may come with the risk of rains from time to time. So the first thing I want to put on your list is a very good rain jacket. So I don't mean, by rain jacket, right? I don't mean one of those really thick rain jackets, just one of those thin rain jackets, which are very sturdy and very good. So we do have some of those with us at all time in New Zealand. And if you watch any of the videos of New Zealand's biggest gap year, you can type Charming Creek Walkway and you can see what happened to us. Well, we started the hike and it wasn't really raining, and then it absolutely poured down with rain. And so we had our jacket and we were really happy with that.
Yes.
So Charming Creek Walkway, that's the name of that video. You can find it too. So a good rain jacket would be very important. Now, the reason why I don't think you should have one of those really thick rain jacket is because I think that even in winter, the best approach is to layer your clothing. And for this reason, the next thing that I think you should have is some merino wool layers. So like this jumper right here is merino wool. It's from Icebreaker, and it keeps me warm really, really well at all time, but it's not a really thick layer. So if I'm getting a little bit cold, I can get another one on top of it. But if I'm getting too hot, especially with the rain jacket or something, I can just take it off, and it's so much easier that way. Okay, so sticking with the rain stuff, you want some fast drying pants. That's what I'm wearing right now as well. Look at that. I literally just can't prepare for the rain. We're shooting that in the middle of summer in New Zealand. So this is an absolutely not appropriate outfit. I do not know why I'm wearing that today. I don't know what got to me this morning.
It just goes to show that your winter outfit and your summer outfit are generally the same in New Zealand.
So fast drying pants, very important, because, well, you can get wet, and there is nothing worse than having cotton clothing when you get wet. Yeah, jeans is cotton. I
don't know much about clothes.
But yeah, so jeans are made of cotton. But nothing worse than cotton when it gets wet, because it's gonna freeze you to death, and that's absolutely just not cool. But because fast drying pants are usually quite thin, like this one right here, it really doesn't keep you very warm. Thermals underlayers are always a great thing to pack. So thermal underlayers are those things called long john that you can get on your pants, or like some really tight, thin merino wool layers that you can put on top. We wore that literally for the entirety of New Zealand's biggest gap year. It keeps you super warm. It's super comfortable. It's absolutely fantastic. And the same thing, super flexible. You get too hot, you take them off. You get too warm, you put one more. It's just absolutely perfect in that sense. So you have thermal underlayers. You have fast drying pants. You have thermal underlayers here, and you have merino wool layers. You have a rain jacket on top, and next, what you want to have is, for sure, guaranteed, beanies and scarf. your ears are gonna get real cold with the wind and everything like that. And yeah, it's so easy to catch a cold when traveling in New Zealand in winter. So beanie, scarf, same thing. We recommend merino wool as a material. It's always better than any of the cotton stuff. It actually keeps you warmer, and even if it gets a little bit wet. But yeah, beanie, scarf, super important. If you tend to have your hands getting cold regularly, you may want to get yourself a pair of gloves. I like the very thin kind of wool gloves because they just, they don't hamper your movements too much. So that's my personal preference, but a lot of people are going for like different type. The next thing that you want is sunglasses. Despite the fact that it will be winter in New Zealand, the sun is going to be still very, very, very harsh. We repeat that all the time, probably one every 2 videos. We say that there is a hole in the ozone layer and it's right on top of New Zealand. So on average, I think it's 7 minutes exposure in the sun with unprotected skin, and you usually get sunburnt. So sunglasses is very important, and may as well put sunscreen right here. But I think we're going to talk about sunscreen later on the medical box. All right, so we kind of dressed you up most of the way. So let's talk about the feet. You need some thick woolen socks because it's going to get really cold, and there's nothing worse than having cold feet. So thick woolen socks, something I keep on saying merino wool. It's maybe something which is really New Zealand, but we live with this material on at all time in New Zealand. But yeah,
you can get lots of different types of wool socks, and any type of woolen sock will do. And another thing is, like, just in case your socks get wet, wool socks tend to dry faster.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not necessarily that it dries faster, actually, wool. It's just the fact that it doesn't get cold. There are some like synthetic material that dry faster, but it's not as good. You want wool.
Yeah.
All right. So obviously, wool socks and your hiking boots. Now, for the hiking boots, the number one recommendation that we give, we don't really talk about high walking shoes and then walking boots and all that, just because everybody is different. For example, Laura does like the basically as low as it gets. If she could have hiking gendals or flip flops, she would literally use that. And I like a bit higher, so I like boots. But the one thing that you absolutely need to keep in mind is that you want them to be waterproof. Between the snows and the water and everything like that, in winter in New Zealand, you absolutely need waterproof shoes. Your running shoes in New Zealand in winter won't cut it, and you're going to be freezing cold. You're going to destroy them. It is not going to be a good experience, so don't do that. So there is different type of technology that every company has. I think it's like Dry Proof is the one from Colombia. Gore-Tex is the one from another one. I mean, they all have a different
like
name.
T-Tech, C-Tech.
Yeah, T-Tech, yeah.
All those sort of tech.
So whatever tech, but as long as this tech is waterproof. So yeah, I bought a brand new pair of Columbia walking shoes, which I'm really happy with. So that's a brand that we can recommend. Laura is wearing Merrell's.
I think that's... Oh, no, it's a UK brand that I don't...
No? Okay.
I don't even know what
So Merrell's I had, and I like them. Solomon as well are pretty good as well. And,
I've had Timberland before. It's been good waterproof ones. So
if you do have some hiking shoes which are a little bit old, maybe consider redoing the waterproof treatment on them. If you're not buying a new pair of hiking boots, make sure you re-waterproof them. And I think this has to be done a couple of weeks before you come to New Zealand, just because it needs time to dry, to set. And there's like like on the can, when you waterproof them, there's a whole process of what you need to do.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind and plan ahead. So that is done for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So that's basically it for kind of like all your outdoor clothing.
One last thing, the mid layers.
Yeah.
Oh, you said under layers.
Yeah, I talked about those things already.
Okay.
So already done that.
Yeah.
Okay, then if you're coming to New Zealand on a working holiday visa, you're probably going to want to work and travel in New Zealand. So that's just for you guys. Make sure that you do have one outfit for interviews. You do not need to have a suit and tie. That's not the case at all. But just a slightly smarter shirt, a slightly smarter pair of jeans, or maybe a khaki pair of pants, which usually works really well. So a baby blue shirt and khaki pants, and a pair of shoes, which is not too bad. That would be perfect. And also that would be versatile for going out in the city as well.
Yeah.
So that's quite good. And if you do feel like you do need advice for underwears, maybe just think about the way you see life, hardly, because you do not need advice for underwear. Pick the underwear you like.
Just one thing though, relating to that, actually. is that you only really need to pack enough for maybe 8 or 9 days.
True.
Just bearing in mind that you will have access to laundry facilities while you're traveling around New Zealand.
Are we giving underwear tips to people?
Yeah.
Okay,
so
fine.
Just pack enough for, I would say just a little bit over a week, because maybe you don't have the time to do laundry within a week, so just a little bit over. There's laundry facilities in most accommodations in New Zealand, including hotels as well. So there's laundry facilities in hostels, in holiday parks, in motels, and in hotels, either having like a laundry service where the hotel does the laundry for you, or they give you they have coin-operated washing machines, or they have a token where you just go to the reception, pay for a token, and use the token in the washing machines. But just as an extra tip, more for people traveling on a budget, if they are doing their laundry and you actually come across some laundry machines that look pretty decent, use those. Take the opportunity to use really decent laundry machines, because there's so many accommodations which have really old laundry machines which don't really do a good job. So whenever you come across a good laundry machine, use it.
You say?
That is my advice.
That is true. It's actually sometimes quite a pain. Anyway, moving on to your packing list, let's just talk about you, right? That's what the video is about. Let's talk about medication and toiletries.
All right. So obviously this is really personal to everyone. Everyone has their sort of medication and toiletry routine. Yes. Some people like to wear makeup, some people don't, some people are ladies, some people are men. We all have different things that wants and needs. So first thing sort of to remember on the list is your prescription medication. In New Zealand, just to pass through customs, you can generally bring about 3 months worth of prescribed medication into the country. But a good thing to have for your prescribed medication is that it's in its original container with the label of your name and, that it is prescribed from a doctor, just to have that information. Like, don't bring your prescribed medication in a separate container with no labeling on.
I have something to say about that.
Yes.
We actually received a question not that long ago from a gentleman wanting to bring a medication for his daughter because he was coming to visit her to New Zealand while she was on a working holiday. So she was staying here for a gap year, for a whole year, and he wanted to bring her resupply of medication. He asked us the question on the YouTube comments and asked us if he could. We were not sure, and so we pointed him out to the New Zealand Customs and Biosecurity so he could ask the question, and he did come back with the answer and said he could not. So even if it was for his daughter, he could not bring it.
Yeah.
So just be aware, it has to be only under your name. It's just
or if you're traveling if he was, for instance, traveling with a younger daughter, he would be able to, pack it on her behalf
because she's here with him. Yeah,
exactly. So that would be the other sort of exception to that. But I don't think there's much more to say about prescribed medication. Just make sure that it's clearly labeled. It is obviously prescribed to you, and
and no one else.
Another thing we recommend to have is like a little first aid kit. This is usually generally good to have on you if you're doing, when you're out and about in New Zealand doing hikes and things like that. Minor injuries can easily happen when you're out exploring. You might need a plaster or a bandage or something, or you might, get a headache, and make sure that you have all that sort of items with you. The reason, although you can get all that stuff in New Zealand, it's just better to have it available when you need it, rather than, being a bit passive about it and being like, oh, I'm feeling ill, so maybe I'll go to the supermarket and get some stuff. But it's just best to have all that stuff handy, available, so you can be proactive if you start feeling ill, or you can be proactive when you, hurt yourself, and you can just bandage yourself up if need be. So it's always good to have a mini first aid kit. And we do have a list of recommendations of what to have in your first aid kit on an article called Health Tips for Traveling in New Zealand, which we have on nzpocketguide.com. And I'm sure Robin will put a link to that in the description below.
I definitely will.
All right. So there's other toiletries to pack, which we have on the list right here. Do you want to go through those? Or?
Well, I'm just going to reiterate that you need to pack sunscreen. The sun in New Zealand is really harsh all year round, and you shouldn't get out without sunscreen. And we recommend factor 30 plus.
Absolutely. This doesn't really class as toiletries, but
it kind of
it's kind of to do with toiletries. It's a fast drying travel towel. So cotton towels take forever to dry, and when they don't dry properly, they start to smell, and they also take up a lot of space in your suitcase or your backpack. So if you're traveling, you won't need a towel if you're traveling in using hotels, for instance. Hotels will generally supply you with towels, but if you're traveling if you're using hostels, maybe some motels, they won't supply you with towels. Or holiday packs as well, actually, if you're in a camper van, they won't supply you with towels. So it's always a good idea to actually pack your own towel, but make sure that you get one of those sort of microfiber, fast-drying travel towels. They fold up super small, they dry really fast so they won't smell. They're just generally a better thing to get. And I don't think they're too expensive to buy either. It's definitely worth investing in one for your trip. Yep, next.
Yeah, so some people are really sensitive to insect and insect bites. So if you want to bring some insect repellent, you can. However, it's not necessary in New Zealand in winter, as most of the sandfly, mosquitoes, and everything are way too cold at that time of the year and don't bother. So don't bother too much with that. It's not that bad. Obviously, you want toothbrush, toothpaste. If you have to pick a toothbrush, pick one which is made of bamboo with like carbon stuff, so it doesn't kill the planet.
Charcoal.
Yeah, charcoal. So charcoal.
Charcoal
Brussels, not carbon. So charcoal Brussels. It's always better. You may want to get yourself some soap, and you may want to get yourself some deodorant, because despite the fact that you may be a little bit cold, you will get outdoor, you will exercise, and you may be sweating.
Yeah. Another thing, it's all sort of like, if you use it, pack it, but if you don't, then don't bother. Your razor, for instance, your glasses or your contact lenses, shampoo, feminine items, condoms, makeup, hairbrush and comb, all that sort of thing. If you tend to use them, it's good to pack. I know about contact lenses, though. Bring enough for your whole trip if you're just coming, for a visit. But for a working holiday, you can buy contact lenses, online at things like Specsavers, that sort of thing, and you can just.
They also have stores, so they can deliver it to your store, which is quite handy.
Oh yeah, they deliver it. Do they deliver it to your store?
Yeah,
cool.
You can pick it up. So let's say you need contact lenses, you can order them online on the Specsavers New Zealand site, and you can say, I want it delivered in the Specsaver in Queenstown.
Yes.
So you're going to be in Queenstown, you can pick them up.
Yeah.
So it's quite handy.
And you actually don't need to have a prescription to use that service either. Yeah. And you actually can't order it in the store. You have to order it online. So yeah.
You can go in the store, and then they will help you order it online.
Maybe.
That is just absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
But,
So it's just good to know, just good to be aware of, like, if you do need to get contacts, if you are staying in New Zealand on a working holiday, make sure you jot down what your correction of your eyes is supposed to be, and just so you have that information so you can order contacts online if you need to.
Yeah, it's much nicer.
Yeah.
All right. Then obviously you want to go through the travel essentials. So things that people usually forget when traveling in New Zealand.
All right, so the number one thing is to make sure you have a New Zealand travel adapter. In New Zealand, they use the Type 1 plug. That's the same as Australia and as the same of China, same as some of the South Pacific Islands. It's a 3-prong plug. And just make sure that you have a travel adapter so that you can actually charge your devices. Makes sense. But a good additional thing to have is, so if you just get one New Zealand travel adapter, you can also bring a multi-plug from your home country so that you can actually connect like multiple devices. Obviously, you only need this if you actually have multiple devices to charge or to use. But that's a good way to sort of have enough space to charge everything, because especially if you're staying in like some budget accommodation like hostels or motels, the amount of electric outlets in a room is quite limited. So if for instance you're sharing accommodation in a dorm and there's only like 2 electricity outlets on the wall, and the people you're living with or staying with have used all those up, you just want to use one of them, and then you can charge all the devices you need with a multi-plug. So we always suggest a multi-plug if you are like crazy about the amount of stuff that you travel with that you might need to charge.
Yeah, also do a scan or copy or photocopy of your passport and have that with you. It's always good to also have that on like a Google Drive or OneDrive by Microsoft or Amazon My Files or whatever service you like to use.
Yeah.
But have a digital and a physical copy of your passport just in case something happened. Don't forget your camera, phone, tablet, laptop, whatever devices you want to use. Don't pack 20 of them. Just pick one that you're going to be using and just stick with it. And obviously, don't forget the chargers for it. And if you plan on camping in New Zealand, you may want to pack some camping gears. Now, we always suggest you pack them as lightweight as possible because it's going to cost you a lot of money to take them in the plane. And make sure that they are spotless, sparkling clean because New Zealand biosecurity is quite harsh. Because New Zealand biosecurity is quite harsh. I'm just going slower.
Yeah.
I remembered. I'm trying to speak slower. So you want to make sure that everything is correctly clean so they don't basically make you clean it when entering the country. So make sure you've done your homework. All right, so that's everything that we recommend packing for a winter trip in New Zealand. As you see, there is not that crazy difference between that and autumn, but it was worth mentioning and giving you a bit more insight in there. If you want to know more about the weather in New Zealand in winter, feel free to check out our videos about the weather in June, July, and August, which are the 3 months of winter. They are somewhere in this channel. You just have to type maybe on YouTube, just type August, nzpocketguide.com, and you'll find those videos very easily. And if you did find this video useful, make sure to like and subscribe. It's a great way to say thank you to us for all our hard work, and it's free for you guys to do, so that's pretty awesome. And if you have any questions of your own, put them in the comments below, or better yet, put it in the live chat right now if you are watching us live. All right, so while you guys are still getting warmed up on the live chat, we are going to keep on going with some questions that we received from you. So again, to give us questions, you can just put them in the comments of any of our videos. And by the way, there is not that many people in the live chat right now on the video. So if there is a problem with the audio or with the video, let us know. So so we can fix that right now. And if there is no problem, well, that just means that today is not the day.
Yeah.
But to be fair, it's a long weekend in New Zealand anyway, so that people may be relaxing.
Yeah, usually there's more viewers than there is right now, so I'm just wondering if there's something wrong with
maybe I was checking.
There might be something wrong with the video. We'll probably find out later.
Once we've been chatting for stuff for about an hour, then we'll figure out that something is absolutely wrong with the video, which is always awesome. All right, so we had a question on YouTube that comes from Brian. And Brian was asking, I'm going to be traveling for a couple of weeks in New Zealand, and I will be in a camper van. I'll be traveling with my girlfriend, and I'm just wondering what is there to do in the evening when traveling in a camper van without much power, because we won't have that much electricity in the camper. What did you guys do during New Zealand's biggest gap year? All right, so things to do in an evening, when traveling in New Zealand. So we already had kind of this kind of question for holiday park, but we thought we'd pick this question to just tell you when you literally are not in a holiday park and there is nothing else than what you have in your camper van. And also, I like the fact that Brian mentioned something without power, because, yeah, that's true. Very often you're going to be stuck in a camper van and you can have no power, nothing. And you're going to be like, okay, what the hell? So first up, there is stargazing. Seriously, just open the door and enjoy the stars. It's absolutely stunning. But, if you're not an astronomer, it doesn't really take you hours, so you can get...
you just look up and say, oh, that's pretty. And
So look at the stars, thinking they're pretty. And we do that often, actually. And it's really phenomenal. It's really awesome. The night skies in New Zealand are really, really nice, but it doesn't really take you that long. Another thing that you can be doing is to start planning the rest of your trip. But because Brian is traveling only for a couple of weeks, he may already have this plan all done, don't you, Brian? You probably already know exactly everything you're going to be doing, especially if you're watching our channel. I mean, let's be honest, our channel is mostly for over planners.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
So what Laura and I used to do, and we had a lot of those battery lights that we were charging with little solar panels. So during the day, we leave them charged on the dashboard of the van, and then in the evening we had power for a good couple of hours, which is plenty enough time to kind of play a few games and then go to bed. So that's the thing. We do play a lot of board games. I think they're really fun to play. So there's board games, card games, and there's quite a lot of those. And so we're going to give you a few that we do really like. And so the first one that we played, probably the one that we played the most, was Love Letters, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it's an easy game to play as two-player game, so which is ideal if you're just traveling with your partner or just another friend around New Zealand. And it's only got, I think, maybe about 9 cards or something, so it's very
it has
small.
like about 15 cards. So
15 cards then.
15 playing cards. That's the cheapest thing to, like, the easiest thing to pack anytime for a trip.
Exactly. You just need to have an elastic band to keep the set together, and you can just keep it in your pocket. And yeah, it's very travel friendly.
Yeah. So Love Letters come from a company called AEG, and it's very simple. It's basically a game of deception. So you have a cards that have a special power, and you try to find where the princess is, basically. And if you find where the princess is, well, the person that has the princess lost. I think it goes up to 4 players. So if you do find some other people, you can play it with them. And it's something that will take you probably about 3 minutes to learn, so it's not something too scary. And you can find that online on Amazon, and you can, if you're from Europe, board games is pretty big over there, so you probably know what Love Letters is, but yeah. So another game that we find super easy to play, but you need a slightly wider area, but it's very fun, and it takes 30 seconds to learn, and it gets you friends instantly when you start playing it, and then you become enemies as the game finishes. It's called Cinco Linko, or what's
OKKO?
Oh, OKKO, I think, in Europe. So there's 2 names for it.
Yeah, so that's a tile laying game. So it's very, it just comes in a very small set, and maybe just about this sort of big. And you just basically have 4 colors, and each set of tiles is a different color. And the aim of the game is to just get 5 sets of your own colored tiles. It can be side like this, or down, or diagonal. But there's always people competing against you, or working together to compete against you. So it can usually make for some pretty crazy rivalries going on. But just the fact that it's so easy to teach other people as well, that is the sort of key of why this game is so good while traveling. Because obviously you meet a lot of people along the way, especially if you're traveling in in a camper van, or as a backpacker in hostels and stuff. And it's usually a good icebreaker to just teach someone this game in 30 seconds, I think you said. So yeah, and it's just too easy. Anyone can learn it.
Yeah. So think about that game when you have to have 5 in a row. Where you drop the little round pieces.
What's it called? 4 Connect 4.
Oh, Connect 4, yeah. So think about Connect 4, but that's on a flat surface, basically. And you need to have a winner. So it forces you to have a winner, because once everybody has played all their tiles and there is no winner, you have to pick up your old tile and then keep on placing it. So you keep on moving around until you get a winner. And it's really fast. I make it sound like it's a game that lasts forever, but it's definitely not. It's really, really fast, and probably I'd say about 10 minutes for a game at most. And you have to have winners. It's quite a fun game to play. Yeah. All right. So next game, and that's there is also always those kind of classics. And so we go kind of together. It's chess, domino, checkers, those kind of games, which are really famous games. So those games, they come in all different kind of size and versions and everything like that. So don't bring your epic giant size carved miniature Lord of the Ring chess set. That would not be travel friendly. But those things that just flips in, and if you do like chess, there is unlimited replayable. It's unlimited replayability of that. So yeah, that's chess is pretty famous, checkers is really famous, dominoes is really famous. Do I really need to talk about those ones?
I don't think you do.
Can I move on?
Everyone knows this.
All right. All right. So there is another game that we do really like, and which is great to play at 2 players, but fantastic to play with more people. Let's say the learning time for this one is about, and I would say it's under 10 minutes, and it's called Sushi Go.
Yeah, so I really like this game mainly because of the theme. It's about sushi, and the pictures.
Just food. You just like food.
Yeah, the pictures are really cute because all the sushis have little faces. What's not to love? But it's a card game again. I think that this is a bit of a bigger deck of cards. It's maybe about the size of 2 normal decks of playing cards put together. But you sort of just you're imagining a sushi train going around on one of those like carousels, and you're
In the
picking
restaurant,
picking sushi off one of those carousels, but you can only pick one thing at a time. So you're trying to scout out the other stuff that's going around the sushi train, and other people might be taking stuff you want to take, but you're trying to rack up points. If you get like if you're trying to get a certain type of sushi, you get more points the more of those you get, for instance. There's a lot of different rules to it, but it's really fun. It's really easy to learn as well, and really good to play with lots of people. And it's about sushi.
Yeah. So it's really cool. So it's a set collection game. So you just collect your sets, make some points. And what's really cool is that you actually pass the cards around, so everybody interacts with the same card. So it gives them really fun dynamic around the group, which people do tend to really, really do like. Next up, and something we're sticking with a lot of like small type card games, just because they're really easy to travel with. Like there are some more fun board games, obviously, but we want to keep in mind like things which are easy to travel.
Yeah.
And speaking of games which actually create a really fun dynamic with people, there is a game called Hanabi. So Hanabi can be played up to 5 people, and talk about something that would bring people together. So it's a game which is cooperative. So you don't play against each other, you play together not to lose. And the game has a system that if you make 5 mistakes, you lose, and you can only give yourself a certain amount of clue. And what happens is you pick up, depending on how many players you have, 4 or 5 cards in your hand, and you can't look at them. So when you hold the card, you can see just the back of your cards. So first, it's so unnatural. Everybody make a mistake. It's like, damn, I looked at the card. But yeah, so you just look at the back of the card, and everybody else can see your cards. And your cards have 2 things. They have a number and they have a color. So for example, you have the 1 blue, the 2 yellow, and so on. And it goes from 1 to 5. And what you need to do is to work together to place them in order. So you need to place 1 yellow, 2 yellow, 3 yellow, 4 yellows, and then 1 blue, and you need to do it that way, right? So if you already played the 1 yellow and you place another 1 yellow, you made a mistake, and then you lose one of those tokens. But the clues that you have to give to each other is only 2 things. You can only say a color or a number. So here's what happened. If Laura holds a card, I can just touch this card and say, those 2 cards here, they're blue. So she knows they're blue. Then on next round, I can say this card here and this card here are 2s. So she knows that this is a 2 blue, and she knows that's a 2, but she doesn't know the color. And it keeps going on and on and on. So you need to remember the clues. You can reorganize them in your hand, try to remember what it is. And then when you kind of don't know what to do, maybe you're going to be like, okay, there's the 1 blue. I think this is the card. You're going to place it here. And just the faces on people when you just play that card, like, no, I told you that was a 4. Or those kind of things. And since some of them have multiple, but some of them don't. For example, like the 5s, there is only 1 of each. So some people are like are just kind of playing the 5s when they shouldn't, or discarding, because you can also discard cards to be able to get some more clues. And when you say, I have to discard the card randomly, you're like, no, that was the 5 anyway. It just really fun. It creates a lot of reactions in the table. And everybody is everybody is invested in everything that's happening because you work together. So you don't have a dull moment, which is quite fun.
Yeah.
And also you're not, like, for people that don't like games too much, it's really good because they're never left alone in the game. Like they are part of the group because you all work together. I think Hanabi is one of Laura's and I's favorite games.
Yeah, and it comes in a very small box as well, so you can actually just travel with that little box. And it's very easy. It's very small.
And you don't have to go through a complicated story anyway. It's like, it's kind of one of those games that says you're creating a file. It's like, no, I'm just playing with the numbers.
Yes. One game I think I have on my mind as well is it's actually a game you can play with playing cards, normal sets of playing cards. Obviously, everyone has their favorites when it comes to the games they want to play with their playing cards. But one that we really love, and we actually learned in New Zealand when we were traveling around, staying in hostels, and we actually learned this from people when we were traveling around, and it did make a really awesome travel game, is a game called Yanif. It's a very easy sort of numbers game to learn. You just sort of you start off with 5 cards in your hand. There's a sort of drop pile in the middle that people are getting rid of cards, and once you have a card that matches one of your cards, you can pick it up, and you're trying to get down to the lowest score possible. It's super easy to learn. Like, we've played this with people from all sorts of nationalities and things like that. So it's a really good, like, sort of social game and easy to learn and explain. And yeah, we also have, we actually love this game so much that we have an article on nzpocketguide.com, which actually explains the rules to the game. So Robin will make sure to put that in the description, just to show you guys, like, if you're interested in this game called Yaniv, which you can play with any sets of, like, normal playing cards. We have all the instructions on how to play it on the website.
If people want to Google it, how do you spell Yaniv?
Yaniv is spelled Y-A-N-I-V. Yaniv?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think all the other words were quite easy. Oh, Hanabi was Hannabi.
Yeah.
That was the other. Okay, and probably the last one on our list, or maybe not, because we do have a lot of games and we do like.
We can talk about this all day.
Yeah, one of them is called Exploding Kittens. So that sounds rough and tough, but it's actually just a really cute game. It's there's kittens of all sides and then shapes, and there's watermelon kittens and all those kind of things in the game. And so that's quite a fun game. So it's kind of a game called a Take That kind of game. So you kind of fight each other. If you have any game where if you know any game is normal kind of game when you kind of fight, with card, like which one's the highest or this and that, it's a similar kind of take on that, where you are trying to avoid picking a card that says Exploding Kitten. If you pick that card, you either lose one of your safety cards, which is called a diffuse. And so you pick the Exploding Kitten, you have a diffuse, you play it and you lose that. Or if you pick it and you don't have a diffuse, you lose. It creates some really fun tension, because almost every single time this game is designed to bring you to the last few cards. So when you're down to the last few cards and you start fighting over the last few cards, oh man, that becomes dangerous.
Yeah, it kind of gives you the same sort of vibe as when you see on movies and stuff when they have to defuse a bomb, and it's like, when the clock's ticking and you're like, oh my God, it's going to happen at any moment. And then bam, it's like, it is like, it just creates that tension, like Robin says, and that gets everyone kind of really like, so that's what makes the game sort of fun. Yeah,
so Exploding Kitten is really popular, and it's actually one of the easiest games to find. That the one, out of all the one we mentioned right here, one of the easiest one to find. You can find it in mainstream stores such as Barnes & Nobles, Walmart, Target, and the equivalent that you may have in your country. So it's a very easy one to find. But all of those games are easy to find on Amazon anyway, which is where everybody shops, isn't it? Is there any other game? If you do like dice, there's a lot of people that like dice, and we haven't mentioned any game with dice right here. So obviously Yahtzee is very popular. Everybody knows Yahtzee and know how to play Yahtzee. But there is also a game Zombie Dice, which is kind of a press your luck kind of game. So you kind of roll dice and you try to get brains but not get shot. And if you get a certain amount of brains, which I think is 15,
something like that,
you win. But every time you roll the dice, if you ever get three shotgun in the face, you lose everything you gathered. So let's say you roll like 2 brains and one shotgun. You put the shotgun aside, you keep your 2 brains, and you need to decide, do you want to roll again? If you roll again and you roll, 2 brains and 1 shotgun, you now have 4 brain and 2 shotguns. You're good. But let's say you roll and you have 2 shotgun and 1 brain. Your 3 brain that you just have lost. Your score is 0 because you had 3 shotguns. So it's kind of like really fun. Kind of like, will you do it? Will you not? It's really, really fun. And one of the really good things with that game is that there is a kind of an unlimited amount of players. So if you travel with a few extra people, if you plan on meeting people and everything, and also it's a super easy game to learn. So it's unlimited amount. So let's say you're 8 people, you can have a blast playing that. That can be a nice variant from the classic werewolf that everybody likes to play. And you don't need to buy the board game for that. You don't need to buy the card set for werewolf. Is quite funny to play without any of that.
Also with the zombie die, it comes in a little cup, so it's very small and easy to travel with. I think there's maybe how many die is in the
I say maybe I think it's 15.
Maybe 15 die that comes in this little cup. But when you're supposed to shake the die in the cup, which is very noisy. So if you're maybe playing this in a hostel or something in the communal area, then you might be seen as a little bit annoying to do that. But if you're just playing in your camper van and it's just like you're in your own space and stuff, or otherwise you can find other ways of shaking the die up without using the cup. But whenever Robin and I play that, we're usually like, oh my god, it's so annoyingly loud when we're like shaking up the die. So but generally it's a very easy and small game to travel with, and it's extra light.
All right, so that's a nice, good list of games for you, Brian. So obviously, like playing games on the road is really easy, and also it just uses no power whatsoever. If you do want some extra ideas, there are plenty of apps which are really fun. So there is apps like Charades, so you can play Charades. It's always quite funny. Or there are some apps where you can read stories or play your own adventures or those kind of things. They're a great way to kind of keep yourself entertained in your camper van at night if you have no power. But something using your phone battery may not be the wisest thing if power is always a problem. Walking around your campsite, if there are some people around, they're probably in the same situation than you. So chat with them, meet some friends. It's always really great. Or the last thing that we have for you to do in an evening is to grab a torchlight and go in a small, short walk at night. The wildlife in New Zealand is extremely different at night than it is during the day. You can find some really amazing insects like wetas, which are gigantic, wood eater kind of
they're
insects.
kind of like a giant cricket type thing. Yeah.
If you think about a locust, that's exactly what that is. So yes, that's really awesome to do. You may be lucky enough to spot a kiwi bird, although you probably won't. But,
there's also the little native owl called a mawpaw.
The forests really come alive at night in New Zealand, which is really awesome. So we recommend walk which are less than 1 hour to do at night. It's really fun. So if you're around National Park, for example, in the central Northern End, there is some really amazing little, very short walk, and it's always really, really fun to do.
You might even find some glowworms as well, which are little maggots that shine little blue lights. I'm sure you've heard of them if you've heard of the Waitomo caves, but you can actually just see them at night if you're walking near creeks or where there's water. There tends to be quite a lot around there. We do have an article on nzpocketguide.com, which is, I think it's called like the 10 things to do in New Zealand after dark or at night. And we list loads of other ideas there for you as well.
And finally, the last thing that we have for you to do when you are in a camper van and you don't have power, Brian, is learn a new skill. A lot of people actually just kind of forget that, when you have free time on your hand, you can do that. So you can grab a cheap guitar from a hotel or from a secondhand shop and maybe try to scratch the guitar and try to learn that. You can grab some pieces of paper and try to learn origami. You can, there is so many things that you can actually learn. Learn to make fire, for example, rub like a couple of pieces of wood, read how to do that and practice and practice and practice. You can also grab some pieces of wood and grab a knife and learn some wood carving. That's something that I'm actually going to be learning next time we're actually having a little trip. I'm planning on trying to learn wood carving just to see if I can make something with my hands. So there's plenty of things that you can actually learn, like learn a non-digital skill. And I think like a lot of people kind of forget those kind of things. It's very silly, but even just in the camper van with a tiny kitchen that you have, you can actually learn like basic baking or those kind of things. You can definitely learn a ton of stuff.
You can bake bread actually without putting it in the oven. I think it's called like a Dutch oven where you like bake it in a pan, for instance. There's all sorts of things.
You can make pizzas in the frying pan in the stuff. Like seriously, there is a lot of like fun recipes like that. So you can prepare yourself and like print a few things and this and that. Like for example, like the last time we went on the trip with Laura, I like to download like ebooks and everything. And I had like 50 things that you need to learn before you die or something like that. And that was kind of short things. And we were reading about 1 or 2 a day, and we were just kind of chatting or discussing this. So I think it was really fun. Like it's a really kind of good way to kind of expand your mind. You're traveling already and discovering new cultures and all that. But if on top of it you can expand your mind, it's quite fun as well.
Yeah.
So if you did find this video useful, make sure to like. It's a great way to say thank you to us for all our hard work. And if you do want to see more videos about traveling in New Zealand, make sure to subscribe. We are here every single week at 8 a.m. New Zealand time on Sundays, which is probably Saturdays. At those time in UK and France, it's 8 a.m. or 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. on Saturday. In the USA, it's 2 p.m. EST, 11 a.m. PST. In India, it's 12:30 a.m. And in Australia, it's 6 a.m. bright and early. For India, it is on Sundays. For all the other parts of the world, for India, it's on Sundays, and for all the other parts of the world, it is on Saturday. Thank you very much for joining us, guys. Bye-bye.
See you next week.